Hi, in this video I want to talk about this another distinction I want to make between trying to convince people. I guess you could go back to the basic idea of trying to convince people of convincing people, getting ideas spread, ideas certain like where the spreading ideas and how we're the the host of ideas and memes and certain things like that spread through the host. The idea is a thing, and we're just sort of like determinism. Everything is a mechanical process, and the mechanical process is a basic idea mechanically created based on the surroundings of the possibility of the reality that can create an idea being spread through the every abstract idea, whatever it may be, spread through the host, which is another mechanical thing functioning through that mechanical idea, functioning with that mechanical idea as its guidepost or whatever it may be. But it's the same basic thing. Um, they're functioning in the same mechanical universe, and the idea is the thing that matters, that spreads. That would only mean anything if there is something that can spread the idea or feel the repercussions or experience the idea itself. So it's spreading, and the idea is the ultimate thing that has the ultimate effect. Without the idea, um, there couldn't be an idea. Obviously, there couldn't be any of this. The sentient without an idea, there is no sentience, because sentience and the way it's manifested itself is based on ideas spreading. And regardless of how well articulated those ideas are, there wouldn't be um, a host there without ideas, because the ideas come or the ideas are the things that make the for lack of a better word, synonymous with the idea of sentience. So they sort of work off of each other. But the basic thing is, it's not about if you can or can't. This is another way of mixing in two ideas. But it's a matter of if it's worth it. I mean, ultimately, that's the um, basic thing that you're figuring out is if it's worth it or not. And it's not a matter of if you can or can't. It's a matter of the worth of trying to convince someone else that their ideas. Sometimes you may be saying, "Oh yeah, well I can't do that," or "It's not worth it." It's a matter of worth, and that's something that you should generally understand when it comes to trying to convince certain ideas. It's a matter of worth, and it's always possible. It's just a matter of understanding the worth and what, in the end, would be the better outcome based on preconceived notions or ideas. But we can only do so much, and generally speaking, things happen, like I've mentioned, but it's a matter of the worth that you find in making certain decisions. Something's going to happen a certain way. We can only think within the confines of this universe or this reality, this existence. So we have to do as much as we can to find or use the ideas that we have to find the worth and trying to find what decisions should be made and who is worth convincing. Almost in a way, sometimes if you have to convince them, it's almost like they're not worth convincing. So if you have to convince them, at least too much, they're not worth convincing. Sometimes it's taking a little too much effort to convince someone when you can find an alternative route to trying to get that idea spread. But sometimes it's worth the fight. It's just a matter of finding the worth and if it's worth it or not worth it. So it's really just um, a matter of finding that the weight of decisions and seeing which ones you can do. And sometimes things will just happen. And that's the way things always work and function, but things will just happen. It's about being in the process. You're a part of the necessary process of making those decisions to see if it's worth it. And it goes back to the basic idea of determinism, that things are just going to happen, but you're in the process. You're the catalyst. You're the thing moving part in that universe. And regardless of you knowing it, it's necessary for that process to exist, for something to happen. And it's something that's going to happen, but you're living that process of making that decision and causing those things and that process and the necessary events to lead up to that thing happening to happen. So you're part of the necessary course of action. And regardless of yourself, your notions and what you believe, you're not going to win the war sitting back unless you get lucky. But the thing is you're part of the necessary thing that's going to happen that cause a certain event to happen, regardless of preconceived notions of the ideas that you have of some kind of deterministic mechanism of things just happening. You're part of the process. And if you don't do it, um, the process may or may not happen. It's going to happen a certain way. and you're going to act a certain way. But you're part of that process, and you're part of a necessary function of procedure, a function that's going to happen a certain way, regardless of the function of your thought and what you think. It's something that exists and is going to happen a certain way. Um, and that's the function of a deterministic mechanism that we're living in. So you're part of the necessary function, of course, of the way things are going to happen. So it's a matter of finding worth and making the decisions that you make. It's not a matter of if you can. It's a matter of when and which routes you take. Um, Obviously, there's some things that you can generally say you can't do. But it's a matter of if it's worth it, worth finding a function or a way to get that thing done a certain way. It's not the matter that it's a matter of finding if it's worth it as opposed to finding a way to do it. There's always an impossibility to a certain extent, but it's a matter of finding the worth or a different way. The worth in trying to find something that takes more effort into solving an issue. But the thing is, it's always going to happen. And I think that helps describe the whole deterministic mechanism too. A matter of worth. You may have to change the way you do it, but is it worth doing in the end? The ultimate goal in the end, is that worth finding the function for, or doing, or accomplishing a certain way to a general end that meets a certain expectation or a certain idea or a certain end goal? And that's the basic um, idea. So, yeah, so your basic, it's a matter of finding worth. Regardless of the ways you do it, it's about finding the worth and maybe putting more effort in. And that's about making those decisions. Which one's going to take more effort? Which one's going to do this? Which one's going to lead to a certain desired outcome, or an outcome based on the victims of this sentient game that are making these decisions or causing things to happen. Well, the deterministic mechanism is always the thing that is controlling it in the end, but the worth is coming from the value that we're experiencing. So the worth and the decisions that we make only come from the value based on the sentience that we're experiencing. So it's a matter of making those decisions, and we are part of this necessary process of existing on a of existing in this deterministic mechanism. We're part of the necessary function. You can win the war without fighting, but who's to say you know that that's going to be the case? And if you do know, it's already been explained by the fact that you already know, and it's already been explained by the function or the ideas or events that already exist based on things that you already know. But that's based on the function that things are already existing. And other than that, you're part of that process, and that's the thing in the end. You're part of that process that's going to lead to an end. A necessary function, regardless of hope or expectations, based on any psychological function. They're just another byproduct. And it's about that byproduct working and function leading to a necessary procedure of things, set of events that leads to a certain end, regardless of expectation or what you want to accomplish. That's something that's going to happen regardless. But we're part of that function leading forward. And it's something that's necessary to the function because it's all necessary in the end. Because otherwise, there wouldn't be anything. Because you're part of the necessary function doesn't mean it can't be changed. That's because life already existed. Doesn't mean it's right. It's just another function that happened to existed. And now we can take the power into our own hands, the sentient hands, and we can change that function and allow it to not exist. It doesn't mean it's a good thing. It just means it's something that was allowed to exist. It was a function that it was allowed, and it was the only function that this existence can work off of. There's no other function or way. There's just different ways and ins and outs there's different levels to have it function. It doesn't function any other way. It's just a matter of um, how much up or down. It's very basic. It's a knob that can only go up and down. It's not something that can change. You can only increase the effects or decrease the effects. It's not something that can change. And the only increase and decrease is a matter of how much sentience there is. But the sentience is pretty much the same. There's no reason to believe this unless explained. But intrinsically, feeling is something that's regardless of who's feeling what, who's willing to deal with this more, or this, that, or the other thing, depending on individual circumstances. It's a matter of worth and how much intrinsic value this feeling mechanism has, and regardless of that, whatever bit of feeling has intrinsic value equal to any other intrinsic breakable piece of way of value that it can be seen. So just go to the least common denominator, put that value piece on a scale, and it's going to be the same for everyone. It's going to make up. It's going to be the foundation that makes up everyone's feeling, regardless of who's feeling more and who makes the decisions and who finds this worth or that worth or this, that, and the other thing. It's a matter of understanding those basic mechanisms. 1 ounce of value is at least in every sentient thing, and that's the thing that's the same throughout everyone. It'd be the same for the headache. If you were me, the headache would be the same for you as me. Or the feeling, pleasure, pain, whatever, positive, avoiding negative, um, which is voiding negative. It's the same basic thing. So that's the basic idea. So if I have anything else to mention on the subject, it always feels incomplete when I'm covering different forms of or um, different ways of looking at something. So anyway, if I have anything else to mention on the subject, it's a matter of finding if it's worth it more than anything. Um, it's a matter of how much it's worth. Convincing, and it comes back to the convincing idea. Argumentative styles. How much do you make? How do you make your decisions? How much is it worth it? In the end, it's a matter of finding those worth and making those decisions more than anything. So that's all I need to say in this video. So until next time, bye.